Family and friends of Kit Mora need your help.
Kit is funny, smart, goofy. Kit loves art. Kit loves to smile and laugh and makes jokes.
Kit went missing in November of 2021 and wasn't reported missing until April 2022.
Kit's friend ended up looking into the fact that Kit was no longer texting, no longer on social media, and it was a close friend that usually Kit would text. And then they called around to family, hey, have you heard from Kit?
Friends, family, classmates, no one had.
I just feel like if Kit ran away, we would have heard from Kit.
Missing person posters like this one have been plastered across eastern Washington. Kit's father seen here and other loved ones trying to reach that one person who could give them some level of peace.
Where is Kit? Are they still alive? And did Kit's mother have anything to do with her disappearance?
On our last upload of Unsolved True Crime, we dove deeper into the life of Lori Sue Nelson and Kit Mora. Lori Sue would abuse her children, the men in her life, and anyone she could.
In this episode, we dive deeper into the life of Kit Mora and Lori Sue Nelson.
Javante Nelson would take his own life. Some of Kit's family believed that this is what led Kit wanting to return to their mother.
I lived in Okanagan in a house with Javante for a while. My family kind of took him in when he was a teenager.
You're about to hear witness testimony from someone who knew Javante Nelson.
So when Javante first came to live with us, he was I kind of remember him being kind of in and out of juvie and whatever, and his mom kind of didn't want him around. I remember we were in the courtroom one day, and she basically told the court that she didn't want him because she felt like he was a danger to her children, and so he was about to be let out, and he didn't really have anywhere to go, so we took him in, and we made a really big bedroom for him, and we had it was like a garage that we renovated and turned into a giant rec room with like a pool table and air hockey and whatever, and he stayed in there. And he was the kind of guy, he liked to crank up his music real loud, shake the house loud. And he used to talk about anything and everything with us. I mean, he was full of facts, full of just random information and knowledge. I mean, he's so much knowledge about everything. And my brother Adrian and I kind of befriended him very quickly, and he became like a brother to both of us. And he was with us for about, I want to say, a year and a half, 2 years. But, I mean, we were extremely close. He learned guitar and ukulele so he could teach my sister and I those instruments. He helped my best friend get away from her mom because her mom was abusing her, and he helped me get my friend out of that situation, and he kind of was just a huge ally, and that's the best way I can put that, is he was somebody that I leaned on for a lot. So when he took off to Texas, it really sucked. I'm not gonna lie, it sucked really bad. And he was supposed to come back to OMAC, and never did. But I was in Okanagan at the time when he lived with us.
Javante had serious issues growing up, even when he was a little baby. And that's because of Lori's, she was drinking and doing drugs back when she was pregnant with Javante and Esmeralda. And Javante, like I said, the state brought him to me because he would run away from foster care homes and just had nothing but, he was having a real hard time. And he stayed with me for about 2 to 3 years, and then he started going off the deep end also because I wouldn't let him have any contact with Lori. And then all of a sudden, I don't know how it happened, but he was using his friend's phone to call Lori up. And then all of a sudden, he disappeared. Or, he ran away and tried to find him and found out that he was with Lori. And she came over to where we lived and picked him up. So she took him back to Omak, and anyway, like I said, Javante had some real issues. I was trying to help him work a lot of things out. He was with me all the time, and but he was just really depressed because he loved his mom and he loved his sisters, and but he just wasn't, just all the abuse that he went through was just not good. And that was not just from Lori, that was from his dad, too.
Sadly, Javante Nelson would take his own life on April 29th of 2021. The same year that Kit Mora would go missing.
I really thought that Lori had changed, and I'm the one that convinced Ezzy to talk to her because she didn't want to have nothing to do with her at first.
So Lori technically never had custody again. There was never a legal agreement saying that Lori had custody of Kit when Kit went to live with Lori. It was just Lori manipulated Kit into deciding that Kit wanted to live with Lori. And we were like, well, you're 16 years old if that's what you want to do, because Lori had us all convinced that Lori was doing really good too. Owning a store and being sober and absolutely devoutly religious.
She seemed like she had changed some, and the kids were just really polite and everything, and the boyfriend seemed pretty good. And then they asked if she could come up and stay, and I asked Kit, and she wanted to go, but the first week she was there, she called and wanted to come home. I said, okay. And Lori says, well, we'll meet you in Wenatchee. Well, then an hour later, I got a phone call. Well, we got it all straightened out. Kit's going to stay here. She wants to stay here. So I said, all right, if you've got it all figured out. And I talked to Ezzy a couple of times. She wanted to stay there and go to school because she was going to be the art teacher's assistant. When Ezzy first went up there, she had some money here, and Lori wanted me to send it up to him. So I went ahead and sent it up to him. I made it up to $300, cost me $328 for the first one. A week later, she called me and wanted another $300. Said they didn't have any food in the house and stuff like that. So I went ahead and sent another $328, which she was supposed to pay back the next week.
It was just a different Lori that we hadn't seen. I never witnessed the drug addiction that I'm aware of. I don't think I ever saw it. I just knew Lori as like a really vindictive and angry person. Very manipulative. I remember like during the CPS case, like when my parents were battling for custody of Kit, like Lori was always trying to manipulate them into not allowing my parents to get Kit because Lori wanted Kit. In the state of Washington, like, you get a lot of benefits as a single mother. That's just reality. You can get TANF, you can get the food stamps and stuff like that. I don't know if Kit's enrolled. I don't believe my parents ever got any money from a tribe for having Kit. So that wasn't really a concern. My parents got some money from like adopting Kit, but that was always put away into like a separate account for Kit when Kit graduated.
So I met Kit twice. Javante talked about his siblings a little bit, but I met Kit when I was babysitting Lori Sue's twins, Karma and Victory, and she wanted me to come to her thrift store, the Storehouse Mercantile in Omak. Kit was there, and I have a transgender brother, and Lori Sue came to me, and she was telling me, oh, hey, and she introduced Kit to me as her son, and she said, "This is my son now," and she kept slipping up and saying daughter, and then she'd go, "Oh, no, never mind, no, that's not what I meant." And so she was trying to get me to talk to my brother about, you know, I guess, what's the best way to put it? Like transgender, like no, not gender reassignment, but like transgender, like she wanted me to talk to my brother about like the mindset and how to stay positive and how to like accept yourself and whatever, and how to, you know, navigate family who might not like be into that, you know, because Lori through the whole time was acting super supportive, and then, you know, she'd make jokes where she'd be like, "Oh, but you know, you're always gonna be my daughter." Just kidding, you know. And it was just kind of a weird situation there. And the next time I saw Kit, there was no mention of Kit being her son. It was my daughter. And I don't know, have you ever seen like Little House on the Prairie? Like, she made her dress in these big 1800 style dresses, like huge puffy dresses that Kit, you could tell like they were very uncomfortable with it. Yeah, humiliating. Yeah. And you know, I never really said anything because Lori Sue has always scared me. Like, I knew her as a child. She was somebody that was close to my family, kind of. My parents tried to help her more so than they did hang out with her. And she kind of got into the Bible a lot when we knew her, so she'd calm down for a couple years at a time, and then she'd go back to being crazy. And around the time Kit came to live with her was when she was off her Jesus kick, I think. So she'd go on a Jesus kick for about a year, and then she would become very, just problematic. There were times where, like, when I babysat her twins, you know, she would accuse me of stuff, you know, and she used to kind of freak out for no reason, and just did a lot of very irrational things. But when it comes to Kit, I cannot say that I knew Kit personally. I knew Kit, like, as an acquaintance, because I met them a couple of times.
Kit a few times would just say that Lori wasn't really in their life. I felt like Kit didn't really know their mom that well or trust their mom, just because, you know, Kit mostly lived with their grandparents most of their life.
Kayla Shelton was a classmate and friend of Kit in high school. This was shortly before Kit went missing.
One time, I had one of my friends that Kit didn't know anything about, and I was trying to introduce them to Kit, and I was like, Kit, this is, like, you know, my other friend, and they were just, like, the kind of anxious person that they couldn't say anything, like, when I said that, like, they just got really silent, you know, because I just wanted to say that because I feel like that kind of just shows how anxious they were. At school, I had very few classes with them, but we mostly just sat together at lunch and stuff or breakfast. But in class, they were always really anxious, and they would draw a lot. You know, they wouldn't really talk much. And they didn't have very many friends, you know, other than a few people like me or Amy. So they kind of just always, like, stuck with the same people.
I had been watching the kids off and on for quite some time when she first got sober and was doing good.
Jessica Freely was Lori Sue Nelson's neighbor during the time Kit was living with Lori Sue.
But she just kind of, once Kenneth got that brain injury or whatever that was.
Lori Sue Nelson assaulted Kenneth Diaz prior to Kit going missing. Kit's sister Charlotte would go into further detail.
At some point while they were together, she like beat him over the head with a hammer after he just had some kind of surgery on his head and almost killed him.
She got really bad into the drugs again, and she didn't really let me come around and stuff. And she happened to see my daughter outside one day and was like, hey, can you come sit on the staircase with the kids, sit in my house with the kids, they're upstairs, I'll be right back. And she had told my daughter, do not touch them, do not talk to them, do not even look at them, because I don't want them to get used to having attention that they're not going to get. And my daughter is 14 years old at this time, and she comes home and she was like, Mom, she's like, she told me not to touch them. She's like, but they're babies. I couldn't. She's like, I had to go in there. And she was like, they were barricaded in there, Mom, like barricaded with a microwave by themselves, dirty diapers. And she came home crying. And I lost my oldest son from my drug abuse. And so calling CPS is not something that I like to do. But she came home and she was like, Mom, you have to do something. She was bawling. And I was like, I contemplated a lot about it, and I did. I called, and I gave him my name. I wasn't anonymous. I was like, I have to do it for those babies, because that's crazy. That baby's a newborn baby, and the twins are taking care of them by themselves, and they're like 5. And I didn't know the excess amount of it until the news report came out about them being removed. And I am so glad that I did call, because it was way worse than my daughter could have even imagined to tell me. And yeah, and it's crazy because when she got sober and she had Rihanna and she was, her kids were her world, everything involved her kids. She was so protective of them, and then just one day we never seen the kids. They never came outside. And I work graveyard at the casino, and she and Kenneth are there every single night, all night long. I mean, I work from 11 to 8 in the morning. And they're there the whole time. And then it comes to find out that they were giving the kids the Benadryl to pass them out and stuff.
An old landlord of Lori's had said that when Lori had moved out of her place that she was renting to Lori, there was bottles of Benadryl everywhere, and that before that the kids supposedly slept a lot, like that were in her custody at that time. I'm not sure what children it was. I want to say it was the twins and the older girl.
I seen her going downhill. I seen her go from a normal mom to super, super skinny and violent, and that evil come back out in her.
Lori had said this about her children. She was asked, where are the kids? You've been high for days. And she said that she didn't care, and she wished that, they would die, essentially.